It was a dark and stormy night. Me and my friends were camping in an abandoned farm, which had an old and scary barn. We were bored and decided to explore the place without knowing what awaited us. We entered the barn with flashlights and started to rummage through the things. There were rusty tools, bales of straw, and a musty smell. Suddenly, we heard a noise coming from the back. It sounded like a moan of pain. We got scared and went to see what it was. There, in the darkest corner, we saw a human figure tied to a chair. She was covered in blood and wounds. She looked at us with a look of terror and begged for help. We were paralyzed, not knowing what to do. Who was that person? What had happened to her? Before we could react, a lightning lit up the sky and a thunder roared. At that moment, a deep and sinister voice echoed through the barn. "Hello, my dears, I see you found my fun. I hope you don't mind joining in." We turned around and saw a tall and thin man dressed in a dirty jumpsuit and a straw hat. He held a machete in his hand and a wicked smile on his face. He was the owner of the farm, who everyone thought had died years ago. He was a psychopath who kidnapped and tortured people for pleasure. He approached us slowly and said, "You are my guests of honor. I prepared a special game for you. A game of life or death. You have two options. Either you help me end the suffering of this poor soul, or you become the next victims." He pointed the machete at the person tied, who let out a scream of horror. We panicked, not knowing what to do. We didn't want to kill anyone, but we also didn't want to die. He continued, "You have 10 seconds to decide. If you don't choose, I choose for you. And believe me, I'm not merciful." He started to count. 10, 9, 8. We looked at each other, desperate. What were we going to do? How were we going to get out of this? Was there any chance of escaping? 7, 6, 5. Time was running out. We had to do something. But what? 4, 3, 2. That's when I had an idea. I took the flashlight that was in my hand and threw it at his head with all my strength. He got distracted for an instant and dropped the machete. I took the opportunity and ran to him, grabbed the machete and stabbed it in his chest. He fell to the ground, lifeless. 1-0. End of the game. I shouted to my friends, "Let's go, let's go, let's go. We have to get out of here." We ran to the person tied and freed her. She was very weak and hurt, but still breathing. We carried her to the car and left the farm as fast as possible. On the way, we called the police and told them everything that had happened. We managed to survive, but we never forgot that night. It was the most terrible night of our lives, the night we entered the barn of death.